Good morning.
You might know me from other stages like the other keynote, so good to see you all here. I'm Richard, I lead developer experience for Cloud and Google, and joined by Prashanth.
Hey, I'm Prashanth. I lead developer adoption for APAC and part of Richard's team.
Yeah, so we're gonna have some fun today, doing some live demos, talking about what it means to build production-grade agents. What are we learning along the way? What's Google learned? What has our team learned? So we'll have some fun together.
Awesome. Looking forward to this.
Yeah. I mean, I guess this is the one you probably won't, or the next slide. We'll go for yours. There we go. Most people won't say this, so I guess I'll say it. So if you're bringing AI into your engineering team, that's amazing. It's going to be super expensive. You're not going to be sure if it works or not, and it's going to find a lot of friction. So that's my talk. I will see you. Now that would be a terrible talk. But I think that we don't talk like this, right? We all think it's just magic. I buy some AI, and all of a sudden my teams work better. That's not true. This is hard. It takes team transformation, takes technical transformation, a different way of working. We should admit that, right? Now, if you do it good, amazing, and that's what we're going to talk about today. But this isn't an easy transition. This is where we need all of your brains to help us all make this happen. So we figured it might be fun to actually just start with a real demonstration of what does AI in the software lifecycle look like as I build production-grade agents. So yeah, let's have a little fun together.
Let's do that.
All right. So where do we start sometimes our planning? I mean, look, sometimes we start with thinking about what's the problem, figuring out our goal. And so you might use something like Gemini Enterprise. I asked it the other day. I said, hey, I want a prompt. Or no, let's start earlier. I actually want to build an agent that helps me catch up on industry trends. I don't know about you. I'm paid to keep up, and I can't keep up. So maybe we should build agents that could constantly be looking at what are people talking about and what's going on there. But I don't know what I don't know. So I could use a partner like Gemini Enterprise to say, hey, how should I think about this? Now, the answer was pretty good. It was, hey, figure out which programming language you're going to focus on. That's a good point. What are the hands, the custom tools my agent might need? That's a good question. How should I think about the structure of that workload? Well, how do I think about memory or session? Like, these are all things we might do as we start planning out our work, as well as debugging and troubleshooting. I might finish that and say, I really like that. Could you help me take this prompt or this idea and turn this into an agent team that can run in something like anti-gravity, which we'll talk about in a second. But could you build a team of agents that might go do this for me? That's something that we're not used to doing. Now, we're used to doing that as regular software engineers. We come up with our work and we give it to a human.
Yep.
But now, can we have agents do this? So let's try that. Now, it mentioned a few technologies here. Let's see if you're familiar with some of these. There is the Agent Development Kit. You've used this, right?
Of course I've used it. Yeah. You wouldn't have me here if I've not used it.
That's true. I probably have to fire you. Yeah. So this is a great way to build custom agents. If you want to do a code-based thing, we use this a lot. It's in multiple languages. Do it in TypeScript. Do it in Go, Python, Java.
COBOL?
Not yet. It's on the roadmap. Then you have things like our skills, which I just showed off at the keynote as well. But it doesn't matter what tool you're using. If you're using great tools from OpenAI or Anthropic or Google or Microsoft, whatever, you can plug these tools in that will then help you do things well on Google Cloud. For example, how do you work with our agent platform? How do you use our well-architected framework to make sure you're designing operational systems, reliable systems, security systems? So these are skills that you can plug into any tool. Do you have a favorite skill?
I do like the well-architected framework, as well as I like the modern web guidance. I use it a lot. Yeah.
I'm glad you didn't say juggling or like a personal skill. I know you're very talented. And then when you think about MCP servers, so how do you give your agents the ability to really know how to do things on different cloud services? We've got over 60 managed MCP servers. You run nothing. It's just an endpoint for interacting with our agent registry or our databases, Apogee, BigQuery. Even if you go all the way down, you'll see things like Android Management API, Design, Developer Knowledge, Google Home Developer. All of these are MCPs you can just plug into your favorite tool, and it pulls in all of the tools it needs to interact with that service. Really nice for agents to give them some abilities there. And then finally, we'll show off a little bit of Gemini Enterprise Agent Platform because you need to run your agent somewhere. Doesn't matter where, but you gotta pick a good spot, and we'll talk about what that might look like. But let's play around. So I'm going to show you a prompt that is too small. And so let's say you built a prompt that was going to build up an agent team. Now, I don't personally like to build agents that just go do all magic work for 5 days and then tell me they're done. That feels weird to me. I want to be involved in the process. So I might start this agent team by using a grill me, which will actually ask me questions. What do you want? Help me figure out the requirements. I think that's really important. Then I can spawn a few agents. Hey, go build an agent manager that gets requirements. When the agent manager is done, go ahead and build an agent developer and a quality developer. This is, you just define this as a team, and anti-gravity spins up these agents for you working in parallel together. So let's go ahead and try this.
This is almost like how we develop software
100%.
in our own teams, right?
We're just using now these tools to also do it as a way, but we got to stay in control here, right? We'll talk more about that. But it's important to stay in control. Now, this is the anti-gravity desktop app. There's also a CLI for all you people who love CLIs now. Why are these so popular? Are you a CLI guy?
I'm a CLI person.
Yeah?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Are we
I
still
like
friends?
seeing those multiple tabs, and it feels like I'm in the Matrix looking at all those console texts.
You're better than me. I like a nice UI. So you got multiple ways to use this, which is great. If we do see there's ways to customize this like crazy, so I can, of course, figure out my model use. I'm using my personal account, so hopefully I have enough quota left. Should be okay. I can use different models. I can customize and pick skills. I can pick MCP servers. I can do all these sorts of things. It comes with a built-in browser use, so it can spin up a Chrome browser and do things there as well. But let's go ahead and do a new prompt. I'm going to paste in that monster prompt. And so what this should do is kick up some work. And the first thing it's going to do, of course, is ask me some requirements. I'm trying to build an agent. It should be getting requirements from me. I'm still in charge, right? You and I should be in charge of this agent work because let's be honest, I am accountable for the result. It does not matter if the agent built it. I'll be the one who gets in trouble if the thing doesn't work.
Absolutely.
So we always have to own the outcome, right?
Yeah. Also gives us a chance to understand that the agent knows what we really want.
Absolutely. So here you're seeing, okay, it's already asking me what kind of industry should this be tracking? Well, let's say keep an eye on, let's see, we'll call it AI infrastructure and companies like Google, Anthropic, and OpenAI. That's cool. So now it's adding to like its knowledge and reference of what it's doing. It's sending it to the engineering manager who's building requirements. And so you see on the right-hand side, it's spinning up sub-agents here. You can have 5, 2, 10, but this is your little agent army doing work on your behalf. This might be your QA agent, your designer, your researcher, your coder, front end, back end. This is up to you. Every single one of you right now just became a manager. Tell your boss you just got a raise. But you just became a manager. You're managing a team of agents. That's some of our work now. That's the difference here. How would I like to do this? I'll just get this on demand. We'll do a couple more, and then we'll jump to the finished one. But it's going to go ahead and ask me all these things, probably ask me a couple more questions, and then really get to work, building the agent, doing the research, things like that. And we'll go with just news. Stop asking me questions. So it'll get through, and then it starts to spin up the other work. I think when this one's done, I think it just asked me 3. Oh no, it looks even more. No, figure it out. I start getting impolite with my agents, which is not good.
I like it that it's relentless.
Yeah.
It really wants to understand the problem statement.
It's like a
and
real
help you with
business
it.
analyst.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, never stops. So in this case, we'll let it finish. Any more questions? No, come on, do your work. Let's see. Yeah, here we go. So it's figuring out some sprints, which is great. It's great also because it's giving me documentation throughout the process, and so I'm able to see I have a sprint roadmap here. It's telling me how it's going to carve out the work. Once I hit approve, it's actually going to start my sprint. So the key here is I'm designing the work, right? Just like classic software engineering.
Absolutely.
And then kicking it off. Now, the final version of this I built has the agents in place. An agent is nothing complicated in real life. If you use the agent development kit, what's an agent? It's really 3 things. What's your model? What are your instructions? And what tools are you using? That's it. Like, let's not make this too complicated, right? That's all an agent is. It's not a lot of code. It's really you should know what you want to do, what tools you're giving your agent, and what model you want to use. Pick your model of choice, pick your tools of choice. That's all an agent really is. So I've got this agent built in Python. It's using the Firestore MCP to connect to the Firestore database. It's also using the built-in Google search tool, so it can do Google searches and things like that. This is all easy to use, or even whatever programming language you want, except COBOL. The rest are in good shape. So when I'm done this agent, what's really important, we'll talk about this later too, is this idea of evaluations. Have you heard the term evals, evaluations? This is really how do we test agents? And not just test them like traditional unit testing, like true, false, correct or not. It's, did this do what I thought it would do? Because an agent's going to potentially give you 2 different answers on 2 different requests. And so an evaluation says, did you do the trajectory I thought? Did you use the tools I thought you were going to use? And so you can create these sort of eval sets that say, hey, look, I might have a prompt like get me caught up on my competitors, and what do I expect? Well, I expect you to use these tools that do this. I expect you to use the search agent. And so you define these evaluation sets. This is your test set that you might be running constantly automatically with things like the agent development kit. And then every time you run these, you're getting a pass-fail and a sort of response of how well did it follow this, how well did it follow that. You cannot do production-grade agents, I don't think, without evals, right?
Absolutely not. You need to know what is happening. You need to ensure that the agents are doing the right things and are on course. So evals are really important, yes.
Yeah, so let's say we have all that, we want to ship it. ADK deploy is a simple command that pushes this right to the cloud. And so let's see that. So I'll show it in a little more depth than we just did in the keynote. But what's great here is, first off, this is the agent runtime. It shows all of the agents I have. I can see their configurations. Here's that catch me up agent that I already finished. You know, an agent has configuration for telemetry and access permissions and storage and things like that. But let's look at that agent. So the reason you might use this over something like Cloud Run or GKE is this is purpose-built for the agent runtime. So I get all sorts of statistics on usage. I can find out what models I'm using, what tools I'm using, how well it's doing on those tools. Pretty valuable stuff, especially with token consumption. I can see how much is this consuming, what's this costing me, things like that can be super valuable. Now what's really, really valuable, honestly, is, and this is something unique to get used to, but every agent has an identity. That's different than maybe a way of like, let's give the same service account to every web app or things like that. Now it's, each one of these should be permissioned uniquely and for what it can access. And of course, from here, if you want to, you can actually execute the agent and have it go do some work, which is great. So you can actually see the results of it or run sessions with it, test your agent. If you want to, I ran this right before I got up here on stage. You can see that it lists all the documents in Firestore, runs a search, and then gives me a competitive intelligence report about different topics and clouds, which is cool. Now, all of these agents get automatically registered in the agent registry. Now, what's pretty cool is these agents are registered whether they're in the agent runtime, in Cloud Run, in Gemini Enterprise, in GKE Workspace. All of your agents, wherever they are, get listed in one place, so I can discover them and configure them. Now, the agent gateway, and I spent a lot of time on this, so now I actually understand this product. The agent gateway is how do you restrain agents from maybe doing things you don't want them to do? Maybe they can't reach the public internet. You don't want that. Maybe they can't access certain services because they shouldn't be allowed to. This is how you can add policies so that an agent, the agent code, but this is sitting around the agent. So let me show you an example. This case, this gateway says we're going to enforce policies, meaning any agent tied to this gateway has to adhere to the policies. What's a policy? Well, policy says, what am I allowed to access? And in this case, I've made permissions for all agents to access cloud logging, monitoring, and I added a custom one just for Firestore. If I didn't have this, this agent would fail when it runs because it goes, I'm not allowed to access Firestore, right? So it looks at the lists of endpoints, and then you can add those as specific policies. But if you look at what a policy is, it's pretty cool. I could say for individual agents, and I could pick my catch me up agent, hey, what access do you have to other agents? Interesting. What MCP servers are you allowed to access? And then what endpoint? And even if I said you're allowed to access this MCP server, I could even add a condition that says, yes, but you can only access the read-only endpoints. You're not allowed to access a write endpoint. So you have a lot of control over what your agents actually have access to. Now, what's really, really important is this is just giving you access. Even if I just have this agent isn't allowed to actually do anything in Firestore because it doesn't have permissions, right? Remember that agent identity. If I look at the identity and access management, here is the actual identity of that agent, and I've specifically given it then Firestore access. So it's kind of two layers of protection, right? This gives me literal permission to do things in Firestore, retrieve database records, add records. The gateway says, are you even allowed to talk to this thing in the first place? When you do both of those, you can really have a rigorous production-grade story here, which I think is pretty powerful.
Absolutely. I think this is the same authorization and authentication concepts we've always been talking about, right, as good software practices. And I'm sure with this, you don't need to be worried about the agent deleting my databases or my code bases. This is the kind of protection that you need to put into your agents.
I think so. I think just building the agents, maybe the easy part. I showed you it's a few lines of code. It's different when you want to actually run it somewhere and not take your whole business down or delete all your files. This is a sort of governance that's not heavyweight, but I think really important.
Absolutely.
All right, let's jump back to slides. Folks in the back. So what is the agentic operating model? If you've heard this term, this is something people talk about nowadays, is what does it mean to actually work in an agentic way within your team? And so one of the first things is building a different style of team, right? These are small, empowered teams that have these AI tools that let them do anything. How do you think about a different team shape?
Absolutely. I mean, we've been hearing about this term, the two pizza teams. Have all of you heard of that? Anyone heard of that?
Now
It's
I'm
been
hungry.
around for a while,
Yeah.
right? But we've had these teams where we have tried to build cross-functional teams. You've had an architect, you've had a bunch of developers, a tester, somebody in QA, databases, right? Product managers, in fact. Now, who's to tell developers today that you shouldn't be writing a PRD? You shouldn't be looking at specifications, right? Or product specifications. Who's to tell a PM that you shouldn't be vibe coding and building a prototype?
Right.
So we want these roles, we want them not to be confined to their boundaries, but leverage these agents, leverage these tools in order to be agile and get an idea to production as soon as possible. So allowing them to do that, building these empowered teams, giving them the capability is really, really useful.
Yeah, Google's doing this too. Most Google engineering teams are a product manager and a handful of engineers. We don't have architects at Google necessarily. We don't have database experts. We don't have testers, which is obvious when you use our products. It's not true. They're great. But those skills are meant to be entirely within the team. And so these are small teams with generalist skills that can do a bunch of things. Now, the second one, and this is one that all of you have to do, AI isn't going to do this for you, which is how do you build up the context that these things should know? LLMs know everything except your context. They don't understand your practices, your systems, your priorities, any of that stuff. And so a lot of our job is to say, well, what is that set of materials, the policies, the tools, the reference docs, that make sure this agent doesn't just do random stuff, but it's grounded in real life? Is there a certain type of context you find most important?
Absolutely. I think context is really important, right? Because one, as you said, LLMs know everything, can do everything, right? Especially models like the Gemini models with this large context can go around, index your entire code bases, do a whole bunch of thinking. But it's important to give it the right information so that it is focused on what you want to get out of it, right? And for that, you need to give it the right context, give it the right project context. What is this project about? What is the scope? What are the goals? Give it access to the right tools, like we saw with the policies and giving the right tools, right? So don't go access everything that you have, that you find. Use the right tools, use the right MCP servers. All of this is part of the context.
Yeah, some of this will be a full-time job for someone. And then this new world of thinking through plans, thinking through goals is a big part of the agentic operating model. What is the thing supposed to do? I'm not just working 6-month sprint to 6-month sprint. I'm doing something every day. I'm thinking about my goal. That's different styles of work. If you go into the anti-gravity CLI and do /goal and then tell it what you want, it goes off and just does whatever it can to try to achieve your goal. If I have the wrong context, that's going to waste a lot of tokens. But this idea of you got to think more now about your end state, not just every step along the way. And building all the plans and specifications, spec-driven development, these ideas of writing good specs feels pretty important.
Definitely, yes. I mean, you wouldn't give an agent a goal, build an app for me. You need to think it through, right? So we need a plan, and you work with the agent, like how you showed with Gemini Enterprise. Come up with a plan, come up with a structure that helps you get the output that you want, that you desire.
That's right. The other thing, and we saw a little bit of example of this is the weirdest one for a lot of us to get used to, which is actually deploying agent teams. We're done the chatbot era somewhat, where I just ask a chatbot question, get a response, do it again. Now we're in a point where I'm setting up work for multiple ones of these entities to go do stuff for me. Not all the time. If you have 20 agents running, you're a little strange right now. I'd like to talk to you after. But you might have a couple. You might have 5. You might have a few agents doing work. And then how do you loop? You see loops being talked about a lot right now. A loop just means I have an agent that has a task and a goal, and it continually does something, checks its work, refines it, does the next step, and you're not involved if you don't want to be. And so I might set up an agent loop to go do a complete refactoring of my code base from old Java to new Go code. Cool. I might just have that loop on it for a few hours, do all the work, and I check it when it's done. That's weird for us who are used to managing all of our software components. This is a tricky adjustment.
Yep. No, I mean, and this is to what you said, right? So leveraging the agent teams, and every one of you can be a manager of your agents.
Yeah. And then finally, I think that this is a part of the keynote as well. I don't think this works without a platform approach. Where does this run? Where do I have database access? Where do I have my registries, my security, my gateways? If I don't have the platform components, this doesn't make sense. Now, you can apply this to any stack. Please use Google's. But it doesn't matter. this is the way people are doing this in all sorts of startups, in big enterprises. When they're starting to embrace the agentic way, these are the traits I see over and over again.
Yep.
And this is the way I think about it. Look, Google ships a lot of stuff. Sometimes we don't tell you how it all fits together. Sorry about that. That's Prashanth's job. I don't know why he's not doing it. No, he's not. But how do we fit it all together? I think this is the story, and I covered this a little before, but we're really trying to make sure that when you build agents, whether they're using our frameworks, others, our dev tools, first off, when you build agents. Now, you can use low-code tools like the Agent Studio. You can use that agent development kit. But you also might be using databases like Firestore. You might be using Google's models as a service, or DeepSeek as a service, or Claude as a service. At some point, you need, when you're just building agents, you want to have a platform. Now, when you're building with agents, when you're using anti-gravity, when you're using your favorite agentic coding tool, sometimes there's a server-side component, things like Google AI Studio, or our managed MCP servers. Those sit on the server, right? They sit in a platform somewhere. Or sometimes even accessing and pulling skills. We have a new skills registry as well, so you can pull all of your skills from a server-side registry into your application. So when you're building with agents, you typically leverage a platform. When you run agents, I think you need a platform, right? Where is this going to go? You don't want to just walk around with a half-open laptop all day waiting for your agents to finish. You need to maybe run them somewhere. And so putting them on a server side somewhere, then having all that protection like a gateway, registry, identity, things like that. And then finally, we run with agents. Whether you're doing security with Wiz, whether you're doing the cloud assist investigations I showed, how do you have agents sitting there in the platform keeping your system healthy, telling you you're wasting stuff here, so you should make this smaller and optimize this or that? I think this is Google's play, is we're trying to build the best platform for agents, regardless of your tools. Great if you use ours. It's going to be great if you don't. But you need a platform to make sure your agents can run at scale. How do you think about this continuum of things?
Different, right? I think this is really, really important. You saw all the things that Richard showed in terms of identities and policies and runtimes and scaling and governance and whatnot. Imagine if you had to wire all of those things by yourself. Right? You don't build an agent, run it on your laptop, and hope that this is what goes into production. You need to take care of a lot of things. And this is why a platform approach, right, that lets you use agents to build and to run, as well as running those agents and building those agents themselves, right? A platform approach, and it's not just the technology, it's the way we think about it, it's the best practices, it's the culture part that we, the empowered teams that we were thinking about. All of this is really important, and a platform approach really makes it easy for me to then focus on the business value that we deliver.
That's the thing, you're gonna build this or you're gonna buy it, or a mix of both. You just have to decide where you're trying to differentiate. If you're trying to differentiate by building the best agent platform possible, unbelievable, if that's part of what your mission is. Otherwise, it's probably a waste of time. Now, what do you need to do to be good at this? This isn't all magic. That agentic operating model is not something you just do overnight. Google's still figuring it out. Like, this is not easy stuff. What are the prerequisites? What do you have to do first to be successful? I mean, I think a big part of this is, do you have a good technology engineering culture in the org? Do you have code reviews? Do you have really good testing processes? Do you have standards that are visible all over the place? Do you have approved tools? Like at Google, there's certain tools we can and can't use, but it makes a system that's very consistent. If you walk into any Google office and use the restroom, there's a little tech on the toilet thing that sits there and explains all of our good practices every week. It's a weird place to try to encourage us to do good feature flags, but whatever. But it's just this constant reminder of engineering culture that's important. We have style guides for every language, and all those things mean AI becomes something that makes us better. It doesn't replace us. It's something we know how to apply our best context to do better work, and not just say we're going to lay off half the team. We don't do that. We want our current team to do twice as much. We don't need our fewer people to do just barely the same. So this is a time to be ambitious, not to be safe. This one's important. Talk to us about data and API management. I mean, I don't think if you have these in place, you're ever going to trust an agent to just go off and start doing stuff within your systems, right?
Absolutely. Anyone heard of the term hallucination? Of course, right? This is what matters, right? So every one of us have access to models, and the models can do a lot of things. But grounding it to your business data, grounding it to your business services, that's where the differentiator is, right? And giving it access, not just access, but controlled access, right? We saw with the policies, the right tools at the right time and the right kind of authorization. So that is what matters. And bringing that together, ensuring that your platform has a good data strategy in place, right? And you as an organization have a good data strategy in place. That really matters a lot to make the differentiation.
Absolutely. Whether you're using public cloud or not or whatever, having this idea of the cloud style of automation, can you continuously deliver software? If an agent's not working right in production, it's starting to fail its evals, you're not going to wait for the next quarterly release. You got to ship it now. You got to fix it now. You got to add new tools, add new context. And so how are you thinking about being really good at infrastructure and app deployments? If you're not yet, I'd be careful deploying a ton of AI solutions because you're going to have problems in prod. And if it's too hard to update them, this is not going to work right. This is one, you talked about culture a little bit too, but yes, if you don't have the right culture in place, look, this is a case where, especially this new style of work, everything is not going to work right the first time. Do you have a kind of company or a boss who's going to say it has to be flawless every time or you get fired? You're not going to work like this because this isn't going to work right every time. So do you have a knowledge sharing culture? Do people talk to each other? Are you allowed to experiment and fail fast? How else do you think of culture, even in your own team, as you've done this?
Absolutely. So this kind of a culture of both continuous learning as well as sharing, right? Bring your team along with you. This is something that we talk about and encourage a lot, right? So we have this continuous learning culture where we want everyone to keep upskilling. Technology is changing so fast, right? And what we know today is not going to be relevant in a week from now even. So learn continuously, plus share that knowledge. We have a whole bunch of meetings where you share the kind of cool things that you've built or the way that you leverage AI. We want our teams, so we encourage our teams to not just use AI, but share what you've done with the others so that everyone can move along together, be more productive, be more efficient. This is the kind of, a good team culture where we get the time to learn the tech as well as be able to implement and leverage it.
Yeah, I just made his team finish L300 training on AI, and I'm not sorry about it because it's good. We all should take time to learn this stuff. And the whole 600-person team, all of us figured this out, which is great. Supportive leaders. Look, to be honest with you, this is not a bottoms-up thing. If you all go like, hey, we're going to bring AI to this company whether our boss likes it or not, it's not going to work. Like, it'll work a little bit. But once you start bumping into security teams, once you start bumping into release teams, you have on-call, what you need is some sort of stakeholder who's willing to take a risk and say, we are going to try to work differently because the outcome we're chasing is not a 10% improvement, it's a 10x improvement. Hard to do 10x. 10%, let's be honest, if I asked all of you to do 10% more, we could figure it out, we could dig deep, we can all squeeze out 10%. You cannot just squeeze out 10 times. That is a new way of working. But you need a manager, an executive who's willing to put something on the line to invest in training, buy you better tools, invest in not nights and weekends. If your boss says you have to learn AI on nights and weekends, they're a bad boss. You learn it during work hours, right? This is part of the job. This is not on your free time. This is like, I'm paying you to be better at work, therefore we're going to take Friday off, and we're going to learn this together. I think I'm doing that for you.
Absolutely, yes.
Good. But that's important, right? And so you need stakeholders and executives who are willing to put it on the line, saying we're going to slow down our release schedule for this month because we're going to get smarter at this, or we're going to change our staffing. So again, I think if you don't have these, you can maybe eke out some success, but you're not going to get it consistently over and over again. Let's talk about metrics, because most of your managers are measuring the wrong stuff. And we were for a while too, but I think we're doing good now. First off, I think we do this backwards. So I think the first one you're supposed to do is impact metrics. Does the outcome matter? We're not measuring activity output. It doesn't matter. Am I doing the right things? And so you think about, what are you trying to get better at? Are you saying our goal as a team is that we are trying to ship more value to customers faster? It's pretty good. We're trying to make more money in our core business. Are we trying to reduce support costs, which are too high? Are we trying to make sure that we are improving satisfaction scores or things like that? What is the actual outcome? A lot of people do this wrong as they're not chasing these numbers. They're trying to chase a magic. Like, what is the one number that tells me we're good at AI? I don't know. Is your business better? Like, otherwise, none of this matters. Now, there are metrics that matter for the team, right? How well is your team doing? Did everyone finish their training? We did. We're like 90-something%, which was amazing. You might look at, is our team using the preferred products that we have in the company, right? Or is nobody seeming to use the thing we just bought? What's up with that? You might be looking at, there's a new metric I've looked at in Google, which is we look at every one of our PRs and say, was this AI assisted? Was this done with an agent? Was this done with no AI? And the curve is a hockey stick in terms of Googlers who are using agents to complete their work. It started the year at I can't say or I'll get fired, a very small percentage, and now it's a significant portion of our code. That's interesting. Would we put that in our earnings call? Does that matter? No, because we could just be building the wrong things faster. So it matters for the team, and you might look at, are we maturing? But that's not the top metric. Top metric's impact metric. So we're doing better work faster. How do you think about this one? How do you look at your, kind of at the organization level?
Yes.
What are the metrics that matter?
Absolutely right? So this is the way that we think about it. We, as an advocacy team, right? So what's important for me is not, how many folks I'm talking to here. It's what are you going to do after going back from here, right? Did we add value to you from what we are talking about, from the way that we are asking you to approach? So this is the impact metrics that we keep looking at, right? And then, of course, yes, so what are we doing and how are we doing that? Enabling our team to upskill, give them the time so that we can bring value to you, right? Yep. So there's an order in which it makes sense that we put this together.
So these are valuable. I don't think your CEO should be looking at these. And then finally, this is the one everyone seems to do first, which doesn't work. But these are like the raw AI metrics. How many tokens are we using? Okay. What are we spending is interesting. How many skills are we using? Like, this is just raw, are we using AI? Like, token maxing, if you want to do it, live your life. But you could just be wasting tokens on things that don't matter. So if somebody goes, hey, do we know if we're good at AI or not because we're using a lot of tokens? It's the wrong answer, right? Are we good at AI or not is, did we improve the product value? Are we shipping more often? Did we reduce costs? Like, the impact metrics. Don't fall for this being the most important stuff. This is useful. Like, within a team, you might look, why is Prashanth using so many freaking tokens? Like, that's unbelievable. And we'd have a conversation. But that's not an executive conversation. Who cares? So don't flip this, right? This should be the order. This is what we're trying to do as well, is track what matters and then use these other ones to calibrate the team. So, a few things as we do this whole production-grade AI journey with us, and we'll bring a customer on stage. We want to talk a little bit about this. Yep. One of the fun parts, and you have it here with DeepMind folks and cloud folks and Android folks, is you work with some of the best people who understand this stuff. We don't know more than you do. We're just learning fast, and we like doing it with you, and that's what makes this stuff fun. With some amazing training resources, Prashanth's teams and others make amazing code labs, online labs, documentation, skills. We do all this sort of work so that you can just get better, often for free, because Google doesn't love money all the time. And then, we're not a tools company. We're a platform company. So we want to have the best platform for all of this agent work. That's the goal. And then, I don't have any idea what this will look like in 12 months. Anyone who tells you they know what's coming next is making it up or works in marketing. There's just no way. I don't know what's happening next week. So the only thing you should be doing right now is two things. Be extremely curious and stay really aware of what's going on, and be super humble because you're going to be wrong constantly. And that's okay. This is not the time to marry yourself to certain products. This is the time to explore, time to understand, time to go, that used to be a best practice, now it's not. That's totally okay. So now's not the time to be overly confident. Just be curious and explore and try things out. You'll be better off. Absolutely. I think you want to talk about who's doing this in real life, though. This isn't just magic theory.
Exactly, right? So this is not just theory. We spoke about building agents, building with agents, running with agents, culture, the way you go about doing things, right? We actually have our partners that has been using our platform and putting things into production. So for example, Adya AI uses natural language. It's built completely on Google Cloud, where with the natural language, you can just say, build me a loan evaluation app, for example. And it comes up with the architecture, comes up with the business requirements, comes up with an evaluation plan, builds the whole application, the whole agent, and deploys it. Takes care of all of this end-to-end, and they're running this on Google Cloud. What about Policy Bazaar? Having an insurance advisory agent built using ADK, right? This is running at consumer scale. It's a regulated industry. And it has this root agent that understands what you want, passes it on to sub-agents, which is specialized in, let's say, life insurance, car insurance, home insurance, whatever you want, right? And this is multi-agent system running at scale. So this is something that Policy Bazaar has done using the platform. Traffic is amazing as well, right? So what they've done is they're using the Google Maps API platform, and they're using Gemini, of course. They have designed something that helps you in traffic. It's deployed in 5 cities. About 5,000 kilometers of roads have been mapped. And since Feb, when it was deployed in Pune, it has saved about 30% commute time. Wow. Now, wouldn't it be great, if you could come here 30 minutes faster out of the 1.5 hours that we take? But these are the amazing things that our partners have been doing. That's amazing.
Well, let's talk to one right now. I'd like to invite Prakhyath to stage and talk about real life here, and maybe even have a surprise for you. So,
absolutely, Prakhyath.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah. So let's talk about Cropin and what you're doing, and specifically, what's the scale of the problem you're trying to solve?
Cropin operates one of the world's largest AI platform deployed in food and agri sector, and with the vision of making global food system more intelligent, resilient, and sustainable. And recently, we computed 1 billion acres of land worldwide, spanning across 102 countries. And we also digitally collected 9 million farmers' data and deployed 20 plus crop science and transformer models for 500 plus crops globally, right? And just to give you an idea of the scale, and the 1 billion acres of land accounts for 10% of the world agricultural land, right? So that's the scale which we operate. And what we do is we process this data in planetary scale, and then we analyze and convert this data into actionable insights so that it can be used by farmers, agronomists, food companies, governments, financial institutions to make the very interesting decisions and actionable decisions in the food and agri sector, right?
Nice. What tech stack do you need to make that happen? Like, what do you depend on?
In a very layman terms, you can take any piece of land in anywhere in the world, right? And our platform can figure out what is growing there and how is it progressing and what has been the yield. Is there any water stress? Is there any upcoming diseases? And finally, what is the forecast for the yield and the harvest cycle? And we can do all of these without visiting a farm, right? So magic, isn't it? Right? And how do we do, right? The backbone of our platform is the Google Cloud, right? So that's been the foundation layer, right? And so what we do is that internally we call it as a data hub, right? And in data hub we put a proprietary intelligence layer, right? Which is the collection of the data and the model what we run and the geospatial data what we store, the climate data, soil data, IoT data, all the field data what we collect, we store in this data store. And then we have something called a living digital layer, and we call it as a grid, right? So just to give you an idea, a grid can vary from a 10 by 10 meter to 5 by 5 kilometer, right? 5 kilometer width, 5 kilometer length, right? So, and accounts for roughly 2,500 hectares of land, right? And more closer you go to North Pole, it starts from 2,400, and if you're far away from the North Pole, it can go up to 2,550 hectares, right? And we have this digital layer. We marry this digital layer with different set of data parameter. It can be geospatial imageries, weather data, and disease data, crop health monitoring. Then we have models deployed on top of this data. It can be a crop science model, or it can be transformer model, and the past seasonal histories. Then we run the yield model, right, and the growth stage monitoring. And just to give a sense of the data which we operate, right? So if I divide the whole Earth into the different pieces of 5 by 5 grids, right? So it'll account for roughly 2 million, close to 2 million grids, right? And we processed around 200K grids, which is 1 billion acres of land, which is 10% of the world agricultural land, right? So, and that's where we process. And how do we operate? To answer your question, this is how we structure the data in the grid, and we store in our data lake, which is powered by BigQuery.
Great.
Right? And BigQuery has been our foundation layer for how we scale, how we compute, and how we efficiently query the data, right? And on top of this, we also have Google Earth Engine, where we process the planet scale imageries for the remote sensing and the images from the different satellite. It can be Sentinel, it can be Landsat of the world, or the paid satellite like Planet Labs we directly connect. And then we have a Weather Next APIs, which is from Google to get the weather APIs from the different resolutions. Then on top of this, we use Gemini for the language reasoning, right? So, and we also marry this with the ADK platform so that user questions can be identified and answered in the very simplistic term, and so that right actionable results can be shared with the user.
Love it. I think we have a minute left, but give me the announcement. What are you ready to share with the audience here today?
what happens in the in a typical agentic world, there'll be a couple of problems. One is the remote, the data of the agriculture is very, very local, right? And it changes in the real time, right? And what happened last year is not going to affect what happens today, right? So, and the decision what a farmer can make has to be depends on what is the current ground conditions. It can be soil health, it can be weather conditions, or how the crop has been progressing, what are the upcoming diseases today, right? The other factors which matters a lot is the timing, right? So if I get a disease alert, right? If I get 1 day late, so probably half the farm is already damaged, right? The timing matters a lot. And at the same time, to deliver these results in a very fast, in a real time, needs a very highly efficient compute storage and the processing. That's where we use the Google Stack, right?
All right, we have about 10 seconds left, so you gotta show everybody what they can try here.
Yeah. What has been the problem is that we have been working on the Google platform we have been building this platform over the years, right? And we collected this data, and we wanted to democratize this, and we wanted to make it as simple as searching a location in Google Map, right? And booking a cab using Uber, right? So, and that is exactly what we built. We are trying to announce the OrbitAl, right? World first native domain trained platform deployed for food and agriculture, right? And here's a quick glimpse of it. These are the different personas: farmers, agronomists. A farmer is asking questions that ask OrbitAl about the satellite imagery. I want to monitor my farm. And here is the drop boundary. We call it as area audit. So boundary is selected. So now I'm giving the next set of details. It can be plot name, sowing dates. Plot is saved. Now the farmer is selecting the objectives. He wants to monitor the health, weather, disease, extreme events, field level actions. The plot is added. Let's say a farmer use case. He's going to ask the question, what is my current week looks like? What do I have to do? Right? So it's giving a data is like the 9 plots needs attention, and here are the splits of the plots which needs this attention. And the next user is the agronomist. Typically, agronomist works with the farmer and try to give a diagnosis for the farmer based on the field conditions and weather conditions and so on and so forth. And here, the farmland which he is looking at is a 20% more greenness, 90% more stress, and 2 plots are highest risk, 2 are moderate, 6 are to watch out. So next is the sourcing lead. Typical sourcing lead persona is going to be, they operate in the regional level. So here is the example of a sourcing lead who would like to procure paddy in Karnataka, right? So he would look into what are the different paddy growing regions, and how do he minimize the sourcing risk, right? So which part of the area which he has to focus, which is under more disease risk, right? So it's giving a suggestion that the Mysore belt has the best, and he can go and procure the paddy from there, right?
All right, let's jump to people can try this out.
Yes. So it's very easy. You can scan your QR code. You are officially launching today, right? And you can also access from orbital.cropin.com, and it's completely free, built in India, and all models powered. We use Gemini for the language reasoning, and this is built from the data we collect from the last decades, and over 9 million farmers, as well as the 1 billion compute what we have done. Yeah.
Amazing.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. So, talked a lot about production-grade AI, how we work with AI, how we build agents, saw examples. Hopefully the biggest takeaway is start trying some of these things out, these practices, these tools, and real-life examples. So thank you. I'll see you the rest of the day.